I onboarded at a place that gave me a laptop and a Post-it with a password on it, and they're like, good luck and Godspeed, and they're like, your desk is over there.
How do we know that they're going to be able to do the work that we want them to do in the way that we want them to do it?
If someone's sitting there 90 days in and they don't know what metrics they're trying to hit, or at least what success is, then you have failed.
Welcome to Primal HR. Real people, real talk, real HR. The human side of work from the people who live it every day. Here are your hosts, longtime HR leader Terry Smith and people first strategist Leslie Lulham.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 7 of season 2 of Primal HR podcast. Here today with my fabulous co-host Leslie and our outstanding producer Tim to bring you this episode on onboarding. What is onboarding? What's good onboarding? What's not good onboarding? Why it's important and why organizations should resource it heavily.
Onboarding is such a critical part of any employee's journey. It's their first taste of the company after the interview process, which we should probably do a whole episode on that.
Oh, yeah.
But some stats to show you how critical onboarding is to your company and employee experience. Around 30% of an employee's success is determined by their first few weeks on the job. That's huge. Another stat says 4 in 10 new hires said they had second thoughts about taking the job during onboarding, and more than half said the onboarding focused on too many administrative tasks. It felt like admin work. Yes, absolutely. So let's backtrack through those. Those admin tasks, you know what they are. There are all the documents that the employee has to fill out on their first day. They're the I-9 form and the this and the that and the other form and the, what's my license plate number on my car and all that stuff that companies seem to need to know. And we know that there's a lot of it that's very important. As we know, as HR practitioners, we know that there are all kinds of systems, applicant tracking systems, HRIS platforms that automate all that work. And I can tell you from experience that you can get all of that work done on or before the person's first day just using automated systems. And by the way, more and more systems are becoming more and more sophisticated at this process because so the net is that it takes less time. So you have the ability to make that something, people worry about AI. AI is a perfect example or a perfect capability for this kind of work. So if you take that out of the equation, if you take that administrative stuff out of the equation that takes the first half day or day and just get it out of there by virtue of automating it, now you have an opportunity to actually build something. So let's talk about the other two stats before we get into what we're building, let's talk about the other two stats. There was a stat that says 4 out of 10 employees after the first couple of weeks are having second thoughts, buyer's remorse about taking that job. Why do we think that is? Okay, we'll talk about that. And then the first stat was, a third of workers' success is determined by their first few weeks in their job. Absolutely. There's no question. That data is very consistent across multiple studies that I've seen, that Leslie's seen, that definitely show that those first few weeks are critical to building retention. Building retention. Okay, so we've made the case now. You got to do it. You've got to make it happen. So what do we do? What do we build to make it happen? I think a lot of this is going to come down to budget. In my experience, you can pay and build incredible onboarding systems and team size. When you are able to onboard people in cohorts, you can do more like seminar style trainings and really build out like what feels like a professional program. Those of us who have spent a lot of time in the startup world know that is not always an option, and that is not an excuse. Right. You can use a series of spreadsheets. Now we have tools like Notion where we can put documentation, or Confluence if you want to take it back to the old Jira Atlassian days. But building something that is like trackable is huge. You can't just say, dear new hire Terry, go do all these things. Okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you're tracking progress as an HR person. You need to be able to see that. That's huge. And so, when I was putting programs together, I've done it at a corporate level where I put together onboarding for people coming into the company. And I've been on the other side where I just did it for the team that I was working on when I was a manager. And an approach I took was just day by day type of things, like day one, talk to this person. I let the HRIS handle the HRIS things. I didn't build that into their onboarding. Even when I was doing it from an HR standpoint, I'm like, listen, Rippling is going to take care of this or whatever HRIS. Like, they're all automated.
Yeah.
You can assign the tasks. It's really wonderful. And then statuses, I always put status in, like, have you done it? Have you not? And we built it out over a couple of weeks. Talk to this person, talk to this person. It's not as fun as Terry's version, which he will get into in a minute. But the other part of that is the accountability. I found that if I was not following up with the individual going through it and their manager, a lot of times it wasn't happening. And listen, not on my watch are people going to be in that half of people will consider leaving their job. That was not a stat I wanted to put my team in. Yeah. Most people don't. But honestly, maybe we should share our worst onboarding stories too. I onboarded at a place that gave me a laptop and a Post-it and with a password on it. And they're like, good luck and Godspeed. And they're like, your desk is over there.
Did they at least show you where the bathrooms were?
No. And I didn't know where my desk was. Apparently it was the desk with the laptop and the Post-it on it. But there were multiple desks.
But you had to go find it.
I had to go find it. And
it's kind of a gamification thing.
It's like hide and seek. Where's Waldo?
Right.
Spoiler alert, the password didn't work. So I was like, do I even have the right computer? It was wild. And I mean, we can laugh about that. But like, I was one person in an extremely large company.
The processes are fascinating, frustrating, occasionally brilliant, but most often not. But where I like to come at it from, for an organization that's just starting to try and figure this out, is, okay, look, when you're hiring a new employee, regardless of what department they work in, what do they need to be able to do and to know so that they will be successful? Onboarding at its fundamental core is about how to ensure that this new person that we've never met before and only interviewed a few times and maybe checked a reference or two, how are they going to be successful, right? How do we know that they're going to be able to do the work that we want them to do in the way that we want them to do it? And that's really the sort of the driving force behind onboarding in my view. And then once you know that, and then it becomes a matter, it's even a larger picture issue of what is any employee's criteria for success in this organization? Right? Mm-hmm. How do we know that Leslie's succeeding at that desk with that bad password? Right? What are the metrics? What are the measurements that tell us that Leslie's succeeding? And what do we want to hear from Leslie in terms of her experience as an employee? These are the questions that inform a good onboarding process, right? And then once we've got all that stuff kind of figured out, then we can start talking about what is it that we want to be able to do in this onboarding to ensure that our employees are going to succeed. Mm-hmm. So Leslie made mention of a story that I have. Organization that I worked with many, many years ago, large multinational manufacturing firm. Every new employee went through a process. Once they went through the first day or two, they got assigned a list of questions. And the list of questions were taken from all over the organization, every function, every area, even in some cases, specific functions that weren't in the facility they worked in. And then they were given some clues as to who they had to go talk to find out the answer to the question. So they had to then go find that person, interview them, possibly walk around their job with them, whatever it might take. And the people who were participating as teachers in this exercise had some definite things that they were supposed to be sure that they covered. And this was all very, very well organized. It was a multi-year project to get it to stand it up. And the employee also got a checkerboard, just a piece of paper that was a checkerboard with alphanumeric symbols in each that corresponded to the question. And so when you, as the employee going around, when you asked, say, question L1, right? Well, there was an L1 cube or square on your checkerboard. You get to X that one out because you got the answer. And you had to write down the response to the answer, and then you had to turn that in. So you had a certain number of weeks to do this, right? But the idea was that this is to help each new employee learn enough about the organization that they can feel comfortable and confident that they can start their job. So the intent was really dig down and take ownership of learning.
Right. And where were you on this list, Terry?
Well, I was one of the question answerers, right? And so although when I first joined the organization, I had to do the same thing.
Oh, that's fun.
It was awesome. It was fantastic. I learned so much about that organization so fast, and it really helped me get up to speed faster. And then I got incorporated into the list of question answering folk. So, yeah. And then part of my job also was to kind of just double check and make sure, hey, how's the checkerboard going? How you doing with that? Oh, you only got a couple?
Sneaky HR.
Sneaky
Show me
HR.
your progress.
But this was a very metric-oriented organization. So these were all metrics. By the end of the first week, you should have this many done. By the end of the second week, and by the end of the fourth week, they should all be done. And if they're not all done, how can we help you?
Right.
And
another part of onboarding that I think is critical, and honestly, it feels like pulling teeth to me being in an HR or leadership capacity or whatever to get this done, the 30, 60, 90-day check-in. So many people start onboarding, and you know what? Onboarding goes great. They filled out their checkerboard a week early. Terry would be so happy.
Yes.
And then a month in, and it's like, how's things going? And they're like, I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing. And then you go follow up with the manager, and they're like, sorry, that was rude, but it's true. It does happen. It happens a lot. And then, 3 months in, the manager comes to you as HR and says, well, it's not really working out with so-and-so. Mm-hmm. Okay, what's going on? Well, they're not really meeting expectations. Okay, what are the expectations? And you're like, okay, oh my goodness. Okay, like where do we got to go all the way back to like week 2, even week 1. And so I built into my onboarding trackers a 30, 60, 90. I've seen people want a root canal more than they wanted to fill out these things. But the ones who did, those new hires were they knew exactly what to hit. And I'm a goal-oriented, motivated person. Mm-hmm. If you can gamify something, say less. Like, I will do it with gusto, even if I hate it. I'm going to do it. Same thing with goals. I like to do that. And at the end of onboarding, we'll say the probation period of 90 days, which is long. No one should not know what they're doing and what they're trying to achieve. Break it down, 30, 60, 90, week by week if you want. You can get really granular. You can gamify it. Make it fun. But if someone's sitting there 90 days in and they don't know what metrics they're trying to hit, or at least what success is, then you have failed.
Yes, you have. And I will tell you that there's a school of thought that says onboarding is even more robust than that. That onboarding can start as soon as the offer is made, right? Because because if you think about it, the moment you commit, I write you a letter and I say, Leslie, we want you. I've committed to you now, okay? And I will do everything in my power to make sure that you join us, right? Because there's that squishy time frame between when you receive the offer letter and you sign the offer letter and you join the company. That's all very important time. That's part of onboarding in some cases, because in a very competitive environment, you may be, and a very talented candidate may have had other offers in play and now has to go back to those people and say, well, I've decided to accept an offer to go work for Terry. And they say, whoa, Leslie, wait a second. Let's talk about this, because we really want you on our team, not on Terry's team, on our team, right? We want you. That is a squishy, dangerous period. I've seen this happen many, many times. If you're really, really buried in best practice onboarding, you really want to manage that time frame.
It's like dating.
Kind of,
They said yes to the first date. Now you want to like wow them. We would send out new hire boxes.
Right.
Ooh, look at how fun this is. Now, when you're the candidate in this position, it's so much fun.
Sure.
If the company's like, if you can get two companies fighting over you, good for you. That is absolutely incredible. But it starts the second you say yes, the verbal offer is extended, and then. But one thing I do want to call out, I'm going to go to the other side of this here coin.
Yep.
Is companies who are like, okay, you verbally accepted, start working. I will do not start working until you signed an offer letter.
Yeah.
In fact, do not start working unless you're getting paid for it.
Yes, very much.
I will hold on that. I don't care if you love the company and your best friend works there and you want to make a good impression. Like, we don't work for free.
Yeah.
I will stand on that. I love to help people out. But if you're onboarding at a new company and they're like, before you start, finish this project and read this book, I'm going to be like, no, thank you.
Right.
In fact, I don't think I want to work for you anymore. You should have sent me a box with Fun Company swag and snacks.
And I'll extend that a little further too, in that the same mindset that says it starts at that offer point will tell you that onboarding continues for the first 12 months, and because you're constantly in a position of reselling the commitment to the employee. Right? There's a ton of data out there about at what point do people start looking for new opportunities. It's the end of year one, end of year two. I've done some of these studies, longitudinal studies around employee turnover, and I can tell you that end of year one and end of year two are incredibly critical times.
End of year two, I feel like, is the big one.
It's really the big one, but don't sleep on year one, because it's very, very important. There's a fantastic book that we'll put in the show notes. It's called Assimilating New Leaders, and it's by Diane Downey. It's been around for a quarter of a century or more, and it is the blueprint for how to onboard, particularly at executive and management levels, how to onboard people into organizations, particularly large organizations. It is for onboarding practices, it is a Bible, I assure you.
That's fantastic. And I will say, as much as onboarding starts at that offer, which everyone right now wants to get that offer, right? The job market is bananas.
Yep.
The impression of the company starts the second the applicant applies.
Yes, so true.
And we will go into that in our, spoiler alert, recruiting episode. But it's all connected.
Yeah.
And I was just so floored when Terry was sharing with me what he's built for his onboarding programs, because you don't often come across people who love onboarding, and it's so critical. I love onboarding. That's probably why Terry and I work so well together. But it is absolutely critical. Yeah,
no question. If you don't have their hearts and minds firmly in place when they walk in the door, and if you're not reinforcing those hearts and minds routinely early in the game, and by early I would support the idea of that at least that first year, then you're in trouble.
Yep.
So on that gloomy note,
we are going to tackle another very hot topic, I think, because I think it affects all of us. Communication in the workspace. How open communication has direct impact on morale and productivity.
So join us for Season 2, Episode 8 of Primal HR Podcast, where we will get into the topic of internal communication.
You've been listening to Primal HR. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Join the conversation on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook at Primal HR Podcast. Show notes and more at primalhrpodcast.com. Got a topic or want to join us on the show? Reach out. Our email is hello@primalhrpodcast.com. We'll see you next time.